Oh, what a day. What a day. I didn't do much, but I felt like it sure feels like I did a lot. Apparently, Walmart sells pig feed. I had the weirdest experience today where I went to the co-op at a totally reasonable time thinking they'll be open. Surely to God, they'll be open. And I would have been right on any other day. They close at 4:30 and I'm on like 2:45. But I get up there and their feed shed area is closed up and the closed sign is up over the thing and there's like a note on it. And so I drive up and it says closed for Columbus Day. And I'm like, wait a minute, what? Yeah, apparently it was Columbus Day yesterday. Now it's 12 a.m. here, so it would have been yesterday now. But yeah, apparently today was Columbus Day. Could have slipped it by me. But yeah, then I had to go to Walmart because I thought, well, I'm either gonna have to go to Walmart or Tractor Supply for this. And while I don't think Walmart will have it, if they do, it'll be cheaper than it would be at Tractor Supply. And they ended up having some 40-pound bags of pig feed, which is 10 pounds less than we normally get. So a way worse deal, but what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? I guess I could have waited till today because I have to wake up pretty early tomorrow anyway. So I guess it doesn't end up amounting to that much of a difference. Oh man, I'm so cozy. It's pretty chilly outside at this point. It's like, I don't know, 48 maybe 49. But I've got a little electric heater sitting right next to me, and I've got a blanket on, and I am just snug as a bug in a rug. Oh, the skibbities are finally here. Dude, it's been a while since I've gotten a wave of totally random scrolling fucks. I love it when this happens, though. This is my favorite part. This is my favorite part of this hobby, for sure. Welcome, skibbities. My day is great. I finally had a day off. I go right back into work tomorrow and work the next 6 days again, but hey, is what it is, and I'm just glad. Actually, I don't think I work 6 days in a row this time. I think I do like 5, and then I've actually got 2 days off next week. So great day overall. Kind of just kept to myself. Went to town one time to get some feed and get some food for me and my partner, and then we stayed at home and watched some Halloween movies. Ate dinner, and then I sat out here for like an hour, just kind of like quietly sitting. Uh, and now here I am. Not the world's most interesting day on the whole, but I need those every so often. I'm a person that tries to keep my days super busy on an average day, and sometimes I just need a day to not be filled with bullshit. Oh man, it'll probably take a few minutes before some intelligent people trickle in and we can have like an actual conversation about something interesting. But until that happens, welcome to the channel. Hello, weird people obsessed with my sexuality and my gender expression and every other element of me. I'm really glad that just my existence on its own is so so visibly interesting to so many people. That is legitimately kind of neat. Always was, though. Even before I transitioned, I was just a motherfucker that pissed people off just by the fucking sheer fact that I was there. So I had to get very used at a young age to the idea of people having that reaction to me. So really, when I came out as trans, it was after a lifetime of people already kind of being about 50-50 evenly divided between finding me repellent and finding me really charming. I'm a divisive person, but I kind of like that. No cheddar definitely has no cheddar. That is definitely no cheddar behavior. I talk like I got punched in the face a lot as I grew up. Man, I don't know if I've I don't know if I've had a motherfucker be more wrong in these streams lately. Um no, I mean I got in my fair share of fights, but it wasn't like a whole lot of me getting like punched in the face and like falling down and nothing happens. That happened about twice before my dad taught me how to fight, and the next time it happened, I gave it right back to them. And somehow it didn't happen again at that school. I don't know. It's funny how that worked. That happened after that at two more schools, and each time I did the same thing, and somehow it stopped. You know what I mean? It turns out brawlic, violent people aren't used to having that sort of thing turned back at them, and if you do it with even a modicum of skill, most of them will stop. Man, I wish these fucking things would stay lit sometimes. These fucking cones are pieces of shit. At least in terms of like staying lit. No good. Is my dad proud of me now? Yeah, actually, he definitely is. I think he sometimes likes to pretend that he's not, but it's completely not about the trans thing. It's about the fact that I spent 2 years of my life living in a van, just like my dad spent. Like my dad spent like most of his time between 18 and 26 or so living basically the way I lived for 2 years, except he did it for like, 3 times as long. And I don't think he ever wants me to return to that life. I don't think he wants me to idealize it because I think he knows how far back it set him in some ways, in terms of like financial success or um, responsibility, life learning, whatever the case may be. I'm not sure what it is he sees in me that he also sees in himself, but I think he's guarded against that sort of thing. But even when he talks about that, there's a very clear and obvious sort of veiled, the kid's all right kind of pride. Man, it must be so weird for people that think that their weird backwards ideas about human sexuality and human gender expression are shared by the masses at large. It must be so weird for people like that when they hear about families that don't work like that. That's got to be so strange. In some countries, it's straight to the tallest building. That's why America is hands down the best country. America is also the hands down the best country because I can say the following sentence: Donald Trump is a fucking retard. Kamala Harris is a fucking retard. Gay people should be allowed to have whatever rights are assigned to any other group of people. Um, what are some other things? What are some other sentences that are banned in other countries? Oh, here we go. Here's one. Abortions should be legal. Um, let me think here. I believe that we should transition away from a market economy to a resource-based economy. Oh, here's one. Donald Trump has a big old swinging dump in his pants. Donald Trump has a big old stinky poo poo fart fart diaper. Um, Xi Jinping is an old fucking bureaucrat motherfucker. Let's see. I can talk about any world leader I want. Nobody's coming for me. I can talk about any political issue I want. Nobody's coming for me. Outside of directly threatening the life of an American politician, I can basically say whatever the fuck I please. And that is why this country will always be better than your shithole wherever you're. If you don't live in America, that's why our country is better than your shithole. Because wherever other shithole you're from has a precedent of fucking over people who say things that the government doesn't like. This government doesn't do that. And when it tries to do that, it gets called out really harshly. And it gets called to account for it en masse. So there's a little bit of patriotism for you. I could talk about us having the most technologically advanced and well-staffed military on the planet. I could talk about us having the best funded military on the planet. I could talk about us inventing the interstate system. I could talk about us refining every world culture into its ultimate and best form. I could talk about us creating the standard for what is entertainment on the planet. I could talk about all those things, but all of those things in my mind are really secondary to the point, which is that America is literally the land of the free. It's the place where you can talk any way you want and no, nothing's ever going to happen to you. It's the place where you can believe anything you want and nothing's going to happen to you, at least not purely on the basis of that belief. Now, there are some beliefs that if you have them, you choose to act on them, yeah, you're going to be punished pretty harshly. But you're allowed to have those beliefs and express them, even if they're pretty fucking hateful. Even if there's some of those beliefs, even are ones that most people agree that other countries are right to suppress. Things like Nazism. I hate Nazism, but I do kind of appreciate about America that in America, you usually know who a Nazi is because they feel emboldened to talk about it. So usually know who those motherfuckers are. You can kind of keep tabs on them. Whereas in a country like Germany, you don't get to know who the Nazi is until you elect a Nazi, you know? Or you elect somebody that's just adjacent to the old Nazi grower. Sad truths, my friends, but there they are. What's up, Julian? Oh man, yay, a smart person, yay! Now here's the question: is Julian drunk as fuck, or are they sober? Because that's gonna affect the quality of the Julian we get. Can you stop rocking back and forth like you're sitting on a girth-filled dick? Oh man, here, let me rock back and forth with even more breadth. I'll go even farther back and forth. Does that make you feel better? Would this be better? Motherfucker thinks he can tell me what to do. It's laughable. What's your opinion on white replacement? So is that the okay? Just I'm not gonna ban you just for asking, but remind me. White replacement theory is the idea that white people in America and other Western countries that have been primarily populated by white people are being slowly replaced by Hispanic people, Middle Eastern people, and people of other brown-skinned ethnicities. That's the idea behind white replacement theory, right? Julian, be sober. Well, I'm proud of you because that's you do tend to be a little more legible when you're sober. I just threw up in my mouth a little bit. Oh man, I love a reaction. Let me tell you, I love a reaction. Dude, if we were on, you know what the irony is too? If I was live streaming this on like a porn website right now, these comments would be the complete other direction, literally. Some of the same motherfuckers would probably be in here talking about how much they want to touch my dick and how much they wish I could blow them and how much they wish they could see my titties and oh man, it'd be a completely different experience. Damn it. Mets or Dodgers? Mets. I don't know anything about sports, but I know the Mets are from New York, and I like New York. So yeah, if white replacement theory is the idea that Mexican people and brown people in general are slowly replacing Americans and Middle Eastern people are replacing European people, my opinion is that I guess on some level they are technically they're technically they're right on at least the matter of what's going on in terms of demographic shift. They're totally incorrect on the reasons why they say it's happening, the motives that they assign to it, and some of the modes of operation by which they ascribe to this process. So, white replacement theory people will tell you that there is a concerted effort. Oftentimes, they'll say it's by Democrats of all people, the most milquetoast center right fucking uh, left party to ever exist. But they'll say it's Democrats or somebody on the left is orchestrating this massive uh, this massive like demographic shift for nefarious purposes. They're purposefully, it's not just Mexican people and South American people pouring over the border because they're fleeing economic devastation and climate change. They're pouring over the border because Antifa or the Democrats or whatever their boogeyman is paying for them to be shipped over here en masse, right? That's not going on. It doesn't need to. The U.S. border is pretty well secured, but U.S. ports are pretty famously unsecured. That's the thing, is like, because all of this ICE attention is focused on the border, number one, the border itself is not all that well secured. So there are people who will just wade across the Rio Grande and now they're in fucking Texas. But even if that wasn't the case, even if you protected every motherfucker from the border, like even if you protected the border maximally, nobody was crossing illegally there. The vast majority of illegal immigration in this country is due to visa overstays. I will repeat that again for the dumb fucks listening. The vast majority of illegal immigration in the United States is the result of visa overstays. It's people that come here legally with the paperwork in through a legal port of entry, such as an airport or a border crossing, etc., and overstay their visa and just disappear from the from the system, basically. And ICE doesn't go looking for them, right? Because in theory, Immigration and Customs Enforcement is not really supposed to be an organization, uh, at least in its conceptualization. It's not supposed to be an instrument of the government that's concerned with the inland activities of the states and stuff like that. It's supposed to be like the thing at the airport and the train station and the border crossing that makes sure any goods unloaded out of America pass muster, and any goods loaded into America also pass muster. That's what they're basically supposed to be, right? Ostensibly. It's ostensibly it's supposed to be a wider operation to find somebody who's overstayed their visa. And because United States politicians have focused the attention so hard on the border, that's really the only people that ICE hardcore focuses on. Now, they will do raids on other places. They'll do raids on factories. They'll do raids in big cities where like large immigrant populations have conglomerated. But the vast majority of their effort is concentrated on the border. And when someone overstays their visa, there's a very low chance of there ever being an ICE agent actually sent out to their house or their last registered address to see what they're doing, what they're up to, what happened, Once again, sad but true. Somebody posted in 100s, and yeah, I don't know if they were agreeing with me saying Mets are better, or if I was, who knows what they were agreeing with, but hey, I appreciate the agreement. Mass immigration to Western countries will be necessary due to declining birth rates. I mean, yeah, that's something that even conservatives, if you actually listen to them, are starting to admit, right? So it was Dr. Phil versus Ellen Gauntlet that Deep Fat Fried did, where I heard this interview that I think it was Dr. Phil and somebody, Bill Maher maybe, or maybe it was on an Onion Nuggets episode. I don't remember, but I saw it pretty recently, and apparently it's within the last couple of years. It was an interview between Dr. Phil and I'm pretty sure um, Bill Maher, and at some point, Dr. Phil says something like basically what you just said. He's like, I mean, with birth rates being what they are, I mean, honestly, Bill, we gotta have people coming in. I mean, we need immigrants. We gotta have immigrants. We just need to know who they are. You know what I mean? So, like, the conservative rhetoric, like, this is why I think Paul and TJ are right about the party switch thing. And I'm not gonna make a big deal about it because I'm not hyper fixated on getting focused for it or whatever, or really on getting credit for anything. But I'm pretty sure that I first said I was smelling a party switch on the wind like 2 years ago. Now, it wasn't publicly or anywhere, which is another reason why I'm not trying to like uh, hijack credit for it. But I was talking to my friends and people I knew politically about how I felt like the Democratic position had gone pretty far to the right already. Because as soon as Joe Biden got elected, a bunch of shit just dropped off the Democratic platform because now he's ostensibly the leader. And the people he has chosen to be around him are the leaders, right? So instantly the party platform jumped to the right massively. And I started saying like probably probably like 6 months into the Ukraine conflict, when I started to see how that was going, I was like, dude, I'm starting to smell a fucking party switch on the wind because the right wing is opposing this war. Now, granted, they're probably only opposing it because Joe Biden is for it, and if Joe Biden was for it, or I'm sorry, if Joe Biden was against it, they would be for it. I understand that, but the motives behind their position don't matter much if the Democratic position is going to continue to be as predictable as it is, and if the Republican response to that is to just is just going to be to slowly move left on that issue. And I'm genuinely beginning to think that might be the tactic. I'm mark my fucking words, you will hear the Republican position change on immigration over the next 5 years. It's going to start to look like a different beast. We're going to see a rebirth of Reagan's immigration ideas, maybe something even more leftist than that. Not that that was a leftist piece of legislation. I'm just saying maybe something even further to the left than that, because that particular immigration policy was to the left of the modern Democratic Party's immigration policy. So who knows where we'll end up at the end of this process? You know, it's a weird thing to think about, right? But yeah, I mean, either you have to have more people, or you've got to have a different economy, right? Because right now the economy is kind of like it's kind of built on there always being more people. And if there's not always more people, you've got to change up a lot right now. Like, here's a great example of this, right? So much of the economy is built on children, on the idea of people having like at least 2 kids. And nowadays, a lot of people are choosing to have 0 kids or like 1. And because of that trend, that means that over the last 5 years, it's become more and more of a rat race between these different companies that specialize in toys and children's products to try and get the attention of children to try and sell to their parents. Um, our economy never likes to transition away from something. And so what that means is that if we don't fix this problem of there being like no births in this country, or I'm sorry, if we don't fix that problem with either an economic solution or just bringing more people in, you basically have an economic collapse after like a couple of years, right? As people slowly but surely age up, as um as it becomes harder and harder for people to convince themselves to go to Six Flags, because it's like mostly a thing that appeals to people who are like 25 and under, as that sort of thing becomes um a harder sell for more people, you're going to start to see aspects of the economy that aren't even tied to that start to kind of hurt, because they're tied up in it, despite the fact that they don't seem like they're adjacent to it, right? So, like, um, let's say that the currently like growth-based economy and service-based economy that we've got right now starts struggling with the fact that um, people are just not having as many kids anymore, and so there's way less impulse purchases being made, and there's way less activity at like theme parks and bowling alleys, that sort of thing. And let's say some of those businesses start to collapse. Well, then let's say some of the distributors that they've got big contracts with them, but they've also got big contracts with local restaurants and shit like that. Now all of a sudden they've got to raise their prices because they've got this huge contract that they used to be fulfilling that they can't fulfill anymore, and because the business doesn't exist. So they take this big economic hit from losing that customer. They've either got to fill it with some other customers, which is unlikely in a situation where you've got less businesses opening up because there's like a declining population. And in my mind, the solution to all these problems is economic reform, right? Like, the solution to these problems is making people less reliant on the system of employment, making that less of a contingency for human life, making this a country that, and really kind of starting to goad the world into making the world a place where existing just by itself doesn't cost you much, you know? Um, because what would drive these big collapses and all of this turmoil and all of this economic depravity is the fact that profit has to be derived from an orange, as John Steinbeck once wrote, right? It's the fact that you can't just have food people get to if they need it. You've got to have profit being generated by that food. You've got to have somebody getting fucking rich off of it. Somebody that's elevated above all the plebs. You gotta have it, right? And that is the cause of so much fucking depravity. Politics is just a language game where the battle of words is largely disconnected from the actions taken. Yeah, I mean, basically. And that's because, like, I think that there's a reason for that, and it's kind of sad, right? I think, and by the way, I'm sorry I haven't gotten back to you all day. I chose to spend my day off today just trying to focus on hanging out with Silas, because I feel like because of our schedules differing and because they're pregnant and they're going to bed way earlier than I do, I just feel like we don't get to spend a lot of time together. So I didn't want to split my energies from them. So I hope that doesn't. I hope you don't feel put aside by that. But so I think there is a good reason why politics is disconnected from why there's a disconnect between the language of politics and the actions of political actors, right? And it's because so many people feel and recognize that they are hamstrung by the system around them. Um, so it's like me as an anarchist. There's a very limited number of things that I can do without risking damage to myself or my family. Um, I can teach people how to garden. I can teach people how to be self reliant. I can teach people how to build a fire. I can teach people how to work together cooperatively. I can teach people how to de-escalate. I can teach people how to live like an anarchist. That's what I excel at. What I can't do is go firebomb the Starbucks, because then I'm going to go to prison. And if I go to prison, I can't take care of my kid because all of my money is going to be getting taken by the state to pay for the Starbucks, right? There are just pragmatic reasons why those of us who believe in extremist political action can't undertake those actions. It would also be pointless for me on my own to destroy the Starbucks with with no existing protest element around me, right? Now, if the people are taking to the streets and I'm there and people it starts wilding out and I decide to join that wilding out, at that point you've got a different beast. At that point, the people are making their voice heard en masse, and a riot is the language of the unheard, right? In that situation, you're actually adding to that cacophony. You're doing something arguably positive. But me on my own as a sole actor, it's hard for me to do something. So really, most people that consider themselves politically active in this country get 2 or 3 chances every 4 years to exercise that. And the rest of the time they spend dicking around on the internet and talking about it. And like I said, I think that's because we're all cucked by the system. We're all massively cucked by this fucking system. We're allowed to express ourselves, but only just, you know. If you get too far out of that, the culture at large will start to punish you for that, you know. If you're too openly leftist in a small little southern town, that culture is going to start to reject you. You're going to find it harder and harder to find friendly service. Now it depends on the town. I mean, like I live near a town that thankfully is about 50-50 uh Republican leaning, Democrat leaning, or leftist type of people. And I'm very privileged for that. But a lot of towns in the South are just not like that, right? And similarly, if you're like a super hardcore Republican in a really like hippy dippy liberal area, you know, like there's less of a chance that you find yourself totally unable to get business unless you're just a total prick about it. Unless you're bringing it up every 5 minutes, but that's true of most political wonks. Like most political wonks that end up making it anywhere in life learn that you can't bring that shit up at every table. You know what I mean? But it's definitely something to think about. Most of them, let's see, I already read that. Snowing outside? Oh my god, dude. I wish it would snow here. No, I don't. Never mind. I take that back. I do not wish that. Because the trailer is not winterized yet. Oh man, I just remembered that. And now my brain is filled with dread. Doesn't it seem like the concentration of power remains no matter what economic or social system is in place, though? Your relationship with your partner is paramount. No need to apologize or explain. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I've lived so much of my life being expected to account for every action that I take that I'm really genuinely still learning how to not be that. I'm still unlearning that sort of habit of perpetually apologizing. I'm just enjoying your stream while my project is in an inactive state. Oh, right on. Right on. Is the project actually like is the computer actually asleep or is the screen just off? But doesn't it take a sole actor to spark the mass demonstration at times? Yeah, but sadly, right, at least in recent history, that sole actor, it's like very often the people who are involved in sparking a protest have no idea that that's what's going to happen and no intention to cause that sort of reaction, right? So, um, George Floyd being murdered by Derek Chauvin in the street in Minneapolis set the entire country on fire for about 6 months. And God bless it too, right? Like God bless the fact that I don't believe in God, but you know what I mean. Like, bless the fact that this country actually reacted that way and we decided, fuck that, no, no, you don't do that. This ain't fucking 1850 and you ain't no slave catcher, bitch. I'm proud of us for having that reaction as a whole. But Derek Chauvin certainly didn't set out that day to cause the entire country to turn against him. I don't think anybody with any level of personal masochism or anything could ever do that to themselves. I think that that would be too much of a spotlight, even for a dude like Trump or somebody. Like, I think even a personality like that would balk at being perceived the way that Derek Chauvin is perceived, even by most people on the right. Like, it's pretty universally, like, he's a pretty universally hated dude at this point. If you actually get people one on one, they don't feel like they've got to keep up a bunch of pretense. It's hard to find a defender of that guy, right? And the same is true for George Floyd. George Floyd did not try and spend that 20 that somebody probably gave him out on the street somewhere. He didn't go into that gas station trying to spend that 20 thinking he was going to cause a riot. He probably didn't even think it was fake. Dude probably literally did some day labor for somebody, got paid a 20, went to the fucking gas station to spend it. Cashiers thought it was fake, called the cops for some odd reason. But dude was literally, he was in his car, so clearly he left. You know what I mean? Clearly the cashier was like, hey, this is fake and you need to leave. And the dude left. So, like, that's just one of those situations where the whole country burned for 6 months and it could have been avoided by not pressing a green button on a smartphone. If that cashier had not pressed the little green button after they dialed 911, they would have been, George Floyd would not have been murdered. Derek Chauvin would not be hated, you know? That said, there are also sometimes when you've got a protest, or maybe not even a protest, but a big mass movement of people, a big like revolt or something, like the Bolshevik Revolution, which is spurred on by one person or a group of small people, right? People like Vladimir Lenin and Leon Trotsky and Vladimir what's his name, Joseph Stalin, like these kind of like progenitors of Soviet Bolshevik communism. They were certainly demagogues who led a movement and kind of like sparked a big, a big opposition of the government, right? That managed to be successful. But the ways in which those two things happen are very different, right? So protests and riots are a very different form of they're a very different form of opposition to the government than mole jobs or sedition or like a coup d'etat. You know what I mean? A protest or a riot is typically sparked by some sort of big catalyzing event, like the killing of Rodney King, or like the killing of Michael Brown, or the killing of George Floyd, or the killing of Trayvon Martin. I could go on and on and on. But most coup d'etats are, yeah, you can usually trace them down to a couple of key people, but even then, there's a lot of gears in that to lead to the point where you finally get a coup that works. Like, look at, if you want a good example of this, look at the history of Uganda. So Idi Amin rose to power by actually joining with the colonizers at first. Idi Amin started his military career with the King's African Rifles. And when he started to push Uganda to be this sort of like he wanted to work with the Eastern Bloc and kind of, at first he was actually really friendly to the West, and then he was actually backed by Israel for a while. But slowly but surely he became disenfranchised with the West and turned on them, and et cetera, et cetera. He actually ended up dying in Saudi Arabia after living a really long life for a fucking dictator, honestly. Died in total peace. Weird dude, but the point is, he had a very complex career, but even his rise to power was not something that he was able to orchestrate alone. Now, you could make the argument, and I think maybe you would, that he used his force of will to do that. He used the fact that he was a more charismatic person than other people around him to achieve those goals. He used the fact that he could get under people's skin in a way that other people couldn't to do that. He used the fact that he didn't have much of a conscience for certain things to get around the sort of things that prevent other people from rising as quickly and maintaining as much power as he did. But even him, like I said, it wasn't like Idi Amin would have never been empowered at all if Britain had never colonized Africa. Idi Amin would have just been another African dude living in Uganda who, would probably grow up and live a long life and die with, having had no one outside of the continent know his name, It was only through the intervention of other people that he was allowed to form that sort of network within the military to take over the government. And it was only through careful planning that he was able to launch it, right? It was only through careful planning and some really fucking amazing happenstance. So I don't know. I guess the point of what I'm trying to say is that the more complex and the closer to power a movement is, the more complex it tends to be. I think that's just backed up by American and foreign history. But that's not to say that that a big kind of like opposition to government movement can't have legs, right? That's not to say it can't have what's the word I'm looking for? That's not to say that it can't have sway over government policy, because it would be totally foolish to say that the civil rights movement had no effect on the passing of the Civil Rights Bill, right? Obviously they did. It would be absolutely silly to say that our withdrawal from Vietnam had nothing to do with the Flower Children, right? Obviously it did. Kitty, please don't. Oh my God, cat, no. Yeah, you go over there. Meow. Bit off topic, but not really. Have you been listening to the Open Veins of Latin American yet? No, I have not started yet. I gotta look. The robotic voiceover fucking sucks, but still, it's so good. Yeah, no, I still need to check that out. For sure. The computer is in sleep mode as it processes some data I've input. Wow. I'll have to check your DMs and I'll have to see how the program's running at this point. See what sort of patches have been applied. I've actually been hoping that we would get the chance to discuss politics, me and you. At least I was hoping I would get like an impression for how you feel about it, but I think what you said already pretty much encapsulates it. But so far you've asked some really fucking asked. So far you've asked some really fascinating questions about it that genuinely allow me to kind of explore sort of the philosophical backings behind some of my ideas. So I appreciate that shit. Cat, yeah. Yeah, he's sweet. He's just curled up in a little ball again. He's just being sweet. Dude, normally when I'm doing these streams, he's fucking obsessed with my ass. He just wants to be on me. But we hung out with him quite a bit today, so I think maybe he's sick of us. That's cool, though. I love him. But yeah, going back to what I was saying earlier, and relating it to what I don't know if they would want me saying their given name on stream, so I'm just gonna use their username on. So going back to what what is this fucking username? Goat Cager. Going back to what Goat Cager said, or interrelating it back to what I said. I could right, in theory, go firebomb a Starbucks, right, with a sign that says Starbucks is supporting a genocide in Gaza. But if I did it in the town I live in, like I said, I'm just going to go to prison, right? Now, if I do it in the right town where there's already a couple of people protesting and there's already some people like out there and shit, I I could do it, but once again, I don't think it's going to have the desired effect, right? So, here's how I kind of feel like riot theory seems to work. You start destroying shit until the protest is already pretty big and it's clear that nothing is going to happen. Um, Once you've got that cover of night for the first couple of days, that tends to be when stuff starts to get destroyed, right? That tends to be when the communities um, start burning. Sometimes it does start on the first night, but not not all the time, right? A lot of times it takes a couple of days for it to get there, and the reason it takes a couple of days to get there is because people don't really want, I think, to destroy the things around them. I genuinely think that what happens is two things. Number one, there are agent provocateurs who end up showing up at every big protest, um, whose specific job it is to look for things that they can find on the street and throw them into windows and try and get the protest violent. That's something that happened extensively during the George Floyd protests. That's something that happened extensively during the original Black Lives Matter protests regarding Michael Brown. It's something that happened during Rodney King. It's something that happens again and again and again in American protests. The big city police departments love using agent provocateurs to try and turn these protests violent so that they have a pretense to ask the president or ask their state senators or whatever, ask the governor to send in the National Guard or the state militia or whatever the case may be. Um, the other thing I think happens is that people get frustrated. People get frustrated that while they're out here sweating their fucking asses off and dealing with the death of this person in their community that was completely just like murdered in front of their eyes, they look at a Starbucks or a Target and they don't see the place where you get your morning coffee every day. They see a place that is complicit in the destruction that happens because every time the destruction of these communities that happens because every time Starbucks has a theft, who shows up to document that theft and make sure Starbucks insurance pays them out? The cops. Every time somebody shows up being violent at Starbucks, who shows up? The cops, right? Every time somebody steals from Target, who shows up? The cops. Every time somebody gets violent at Target, who shows up? The fucking cops. So in people's minds, it becomes, especially because a lot of times during these big, like, what police will call incidents, during these incidents, very often police will be dispatched in higher numbers to basically guard these big, like corporate locations and shit, or they'll be driving around them more than normal because they're expecting people to do some shit, or they're just looking at a big crowd of people and think, oh, criminals. And so people do what they always do in a stress situation, and they create what is essentially a scapegoat for the problem at hand. What they actually should be burning down, and this is not me saying the next protest movement should do this, I'm just saying, like, philosophically speaking, theoretically speaking, if you were actually going to be effective with this fucking plan, you might want to consider going after the police station if you're protesting police brutality rather than the Target or the Walmart or anything like that. Because yes, Capitol does uphold that cruel system, and that cruel system exists to serve Capitol. But attacking that cruel system, I mean, it does nothing but help you in your fight against capitalism, number one. And number two, your local it's going to be way easier to do more meaningful damage on your uh, local, like, tax funded public services than it would be to do the same sort of harm to a corporation that's got basically infinite money to replace whatever windows you break and put back up any shelves you knock over, right? Whew, that was a rant. My political beliefs are that power tends to concentrate in the hands of a few, regardless of the system, and that the most rational course as an individual is to find ways to thrive. If I was going to be one of these people that labels everybody, I would probably then label you like like an anarchist of some stripe. Honestly, um, I don't know how I would put it, but that's why I'm not one of those people. Uh, no, I like that, and I mean it's generally true. I mean, what you do with that fundamental recognition, right? What you do with that to me matters quite a bit for a lot of people, but it doesn't matter so much that I would ever dismiss a friend on that basis or anything like that. It's just it is something that like to me, um, where you go from the realization that everybody or that every system tends to correlate power, or I'm sorry, tends to concentrate power in the hands of a few. Where you go with that is almost as important as realizing that that's the case, right? Because some people go with that and they decide, well, that's righteous. That's actually the way it should be. That's a feature, not a bug. And I tend to disagree with them pretty hard because I think things have just been like that because they've been like that for so long. It's kind of like a tautology, right? It's been like that for so long because it's been like that for so long. It's very hard for human beings to conceptualize another system because so many of us for so many years have been deprived of that sort of lifestyle. Honestly, if it hadn't been for the fact that um, Great Britain colonized the what would eventually become the United States. You know, if it wasn't for Britain, France, and Spain colonizing and Portugal colonizing the New World, there's a good chance that this sort of like resurgence in communism and shit might not have happened. There's a very good chance. Um, because, in my opinion, a lot of that sort of development started to happen after contact had been established with Native Americans and the peoples of South America, etc. Contact had been established with them for a couple of hundred years at the point when the earliest writings that would have been considered communist were written, at least as far as I know. Um, and from my understanding, the indigenous peoples of America and South America lived a way more commensalistic kind of life as opposed to a way like stricter market system that was employed in Europe. They were way more like trade based and way more like faith of action based kind of thing. And so it would not surprise me that that influence kind of awoke in people a realization like there's another way that we can do this. Now, also, you can't discount the effect that industrialization had on the rise of communism, right? Because for a lot of years, sort of like there've been natural limits imposed on people, right? Um, the fact that you couldn't really get enough light to work before a certain time or after a certain time meant that people pretty much had like a 12-hour workday at longest, right? And after that, it started to become a little ridiculous to try and work, right? And maybe in the summer, you're getting maybe 16 hours for like a month at max, right? With the advent of industrialization, suddenly that's no longer the case. Suddenly they can justify keeping you at work for 18 fucking hours at a clip. You know what I mean? And if they're housing you on site, they'll just straight up do it and say, fuck it, when you get 5 hours for sleep, ain't that enough? So, um, industrialization sort of forced employed people, which itself, like that very designation was kind of created by a massive cultural and demographic shift in industrialized countries, from people mostly living in the rural areas with just a relatively few people living in towns, to most of the people living in cities with relatively few people living out in the country and just out in the world. Oh, bro. I'm gonna let everybody read your stupidity, Joey27. Jesus Christ. You listen to some right-wing people online to get informed, entertainment, or hear the other side regularly? No, not really. I used to, and people are gonna make fun of me for this, but I used to listen to Steven Crowder every week. Not because I ever agreed with the dude, but because I, for some reason, found him to be the least insufferable of all the different right wing content creators. And maybe that's just because I always got the impression, at least until that video with him screaming at his pregnant wife. He wasn't really screaming at her; he was just like emotionally abusing her in a way. That video was kind of what broke the spell of me thinking that maybe it was just an act. But before that video, I always got the impression from Crowder that he was just a grifter, that he didn't actually believe any of the shit that he said. And the evidence in my mind for that was the fact that he's always trying to find excuses to like dress up in women's clothing and act like put himself in situations where, you know what I mean? Like he's always trying to like do shit that he accuses the left of doing, if that makes sense. I guess what I'm trying to say is that he seemed like almost too ridiculous to be true. And then I saw that video and I was like, oh, this dude just never stops. This dude is just a cunt. Okay. Okay, he's just a weird fetishist and a fucking cunt. Gotcha. So I don't listen to Crowder anymore and haven't for years. Not obviously that video only came out like a year or two ago, but I haven't listened to him for years because I kind of got over that stage. Honestly, what I got over that mostly when I found Drunken Peasants, because before that, there was a time in my life where I was mostly listening to The Amazing Atheist. Ironic, but there's the time when I was like mostly listening to just basically The Amazing Atheist, Review Tech USA, this one dude on YouTube that makes gaming videos called That One Show Fun, who I've listened to longer than anybody, even though that's the least political content I watch. I guess that shows you where my true interests lie. But, you know, I wish I'd listen to those three dudes, and then once a week I would tune into some Steven Crowder and see what he'd been saying over the last week. And I'd limit myself to like an hour of it, and then I'd be like, okay, well, so that's what's going on over there. Right. Gotcha. And then I found Drunken Peasants. And what Drunken Peasants did is something that no other show on the internet, to my knowledge, has ever managed to do again. And it's something so beautiful. And I wish they would get it back. I wish they would. Whatever. It's not my place to criticize another show or how they do something. Because I'm just trying to get my own channel off the ground. You know what I mean? I'm not in a place to criticize. But as an audience member, as a person who's a big fan of that show and always has been, I kind of wish that they would figure out a way to be this again, because Drunken Peasants used to be a place where you could reliably go to find people from all over the fucking political spectrum, hashing it out with some people that were leftists, yeah, but open to ideas from anywhere, who would talk to anybody. And that was so fucking interesting, right? It was so fucking fascinating, because the fact that they were all sort of lefties, but all different kinds of lefties, you know what I mean? And I think you could argue, as to whether some of them were even maybe a little like centrist at times, maybe. But point is, you had so many different perspectives going on with four different people, that no matter where the person you had on sat on the political spectrum, you could usually find something to argue about. And it was especially really great if you're like me and you're definitely more on one side or the other, but you like hearing the other side make their arguments and kind of like hearing what their arguments are and what their responses to some of these arguments are. Um, Drunken Peasants was fucking great for that because uh, you'd have somebody on there like I'm trying to think of like a good like Milo Yiannopoulos, right? Milo would say some dumb, super Republican shit. Paul calls him out. They had a little argument. Milo says some more dumb Republican shit. TJ calls him out. They have a little argument, and you get to see where Milo actually felt like where his positions actually lay on these issues. That is something I don't see anywhere else on the internet or anywhere else on YouTube going on right now. And God, I'd love to see that again because that shit was so fucking fun. That shit was so cool. Seeing these super right wing or super religious or super conspiratorial or whatever, these extreme people, you know what I mean? Seeing these extreme people kind of like defend themselves in front of 1,000 people was so fucking fun. And that's really, to me, that's what that show is about as an audience member. Oh, Jesus. Just wondering, I listened to this British dude called Charlie Vitch. He's a pretty disgusting grifter, and I can't stop watching. I think I've seen some Charlie Vitch stuff, and yeah, there's definitely like, oh, dude, is there? No, there have been a couple of different conservative people that have come across my timeline that I kind of followed for a while because I was like, God damn it, I hate the shit that they're talking about, but I'll be goddamned if I don't like their delivery style. I'm like that with not so much anymore, but I used to be like that heavy with Alex Jones. I hated 90% of the time I thought he was as wrong as you could possibly get, but god damn he's so fucking fun to listen to, you know? Um unrepentant grifter, but damn he's so fucking fun to listen to. I just can't stop. I'm an anarcho-individualist. I believe in personal anarchy. Yeah, I mean, that's as good a phraseology as any, I think, that I would have picked because that encapsulates it pretty well. And I'm of the belief, kind of as like I don't know what you'd call myself, or I don't know what you'd call me, like anarcho-syndicalist, I guess. What I usually tell people at this point is I'm just a fucking hippie. I'm literally just a hippie that goes to rainbow gatherings. I want us to live like we live at Rainbow all the time, and the sooner we can do that, the better our lives will be. Um, and people are always like, "Well, what does that mean?" It's like, well, if I help you dig a shitter, then next time you got a little extra weed, you make sure that you call me over to the rotation, or if you got a little bit extra acid and I help you dig a shitter, pass me one of them bitches, Yeah, and you ain't got it, I ain't gonna trip about it, but you know, you do that, and then next time I got a little bit of extra, well, like next time I'm smoking the bowl, I see you walking by, I'm like, hey, come over, hey, come here, wake and bake. You know what I mean? And that sort of have and share alike attitude, I really think that I think people tend towards that anyway. I think if you put people in a situation where they can act equitably, they usually do. And it tends to sort itself out. Once people figure out that selfishness isn't rewarded in a given place, that a sort of it's like a trust exercise, right? It's like one of those falling trust exercises, right? You fall knowing that someone is there to catch you, right? So it's like in Rainbow, there's an expectation of greater personal contribution across the board than there is in any other place because there is no place in Rainbow for people that like somebody that would try to live like a billionaire lives at Rainbow would literally be called a bliss ninny, and they are called bliss ninnies. If you try to go to Rainbow and just like sit around smoking people's fucking weed and getting water at hydration stations and hanging out at kitchens, but you're never picking up wood for anybody. You're never jazzing up a crowd with a really cool song. You're never doing water runs. you're going to get called a bliss nitty, and you're pretty quickly going to find it very difficult to find a single friend at Rainbow. But all you have to do to change that is to go to one of those kitchens that you got accused of being a bliss nitty at with a load of wood, and don't say a fucking word to anybody until you fill that wood pile up, and then be like, go right to the fucking, go to the focalizer of the kitchen and be like, hey, I'm really sorry. I didn't understand how Rainbow worked. I was like, I was still like getting in tune with all of this shit. I'm sorry, dude. There's no excuse for it. I'm sorry. And they'll give you a hug. They'll be like, hey, thank you for realizing the problem. Thank you for acting on it to make it better. We really appreciate the wood. You're totally fine to hang out. And life goes on. No violence happens. No guns are drawn. And I genuinely I love anarcho-individualists, and this is what this was leading up to, because I'm of the opinion that if you allow people to act in their own best interest, and if you allow people to exist equitably amongst one another, that you get communism just from having that environment. I don't think people defenders of capitalism will tell you that human beings have a natural drive to a natural drive to have one over on other people. I don't necessarily agree. Um, that might be true in some ways, maybe in some contexts, certainly, but in general, I don't think it's true. I don't think that when it comes to um, personal gain and resource management, that is true. I think that impulse comes from everybody living under capitalism. It comes from us living under a capitalist society where money is food and shelter and warmth and water, right? If you took us out of that situation, if you nationalized the basics of life, people would start to act in a way more communistic way, just because they don't have that immense pressure on them to be constantly competing with their fellow man, right? I'm not opposed to a more egalitarian world, believe it or not, but I don't know that I view it as feasible. I think it's definitely feasible. I think we're starting to see more of it every year. I think we're starting to see more of it um, with every passing generation, but it is definitely a slow process, right? And also, you have to think about egalitarian in terms of like economic success or economic movement. That one's a harder one to see, right? Also, I'm just gonna go ahead and, even though my channel is always full of mods, I'm gonna make sure that you're a mod over here, so that way nobody's able to ban you by accident, and that way I'm able to see your chats whenever you pop in. That way I'll know, you know what I mean, to like scoot forward and look at the chat. But yeah, no, I think it's happening. It just depends on the definition you have for egalitarian, right? So like I think egalitarianism in like matters of gender and race and that sort of thing, I think that is well on its way, and I think it expands every generation. But when it comes to matters of economic success or resource distribution, yeah, it's going to take us a longer time to get to that sort of egalitarianism unless something happens to push us all to that way quicker. Like if society breaks down in some way and we see like industrial society just no longer be feasible as an ongoing project, then at that point, yeah, maybe people start it would instantly become a more egalitarian world, because you'd have all these people with their enlightened morals and ideas, but you'd have none of the technology, you know what I mean? And so people would suddenly have to live in a more egalitarian way, or they're just going to get hoisted up a tree by their fellow man, right? At that point, at the point where shit has really hit the fan, you do sort of see human cohesion be the standard, or you die. Um, but you know, if that doesn't happen, then I guess there's no guarantee of something like that ever happening. And yeah, it could take decades, centuries. You know what I mean? Like people have been fighting for communism, which is the most egalitarian economic, like standard economic system that's been written about so thoroughly, right? People have been writing about that and advocating for it on a global scale for 160 years. at least. It's been like 170 years that people have been arguing for communism. So, it clearly is going to take some decades and some centuries, maybe. Review Tech USA used to be good before everyone knew he was a dick. Dude, that's the thing. That's the thing, dude. I don't talk about it a lot, but I don't give a shit that he's a dick. I don't even know. I don't. I don't remember why he's accused of being a dick. I don't know what he did to be a dick. I kind of always figured he was probably a little bit of a dick, but I've never really looked for like great people in my content creators. What I've always cared more about, and this is just gonna sound shallow as hell, but I've always cared way more about like, am I entertained? If I'm entertained, I really don't care what you're doing in your spare time, provided it's not illegal. And even if it is illegal, I don't like. It's not my job to care. Honestly, it's just not. You rock back and forth like the Amazing Atheist. Yeah, I've been told that before. It's definitely a weird habit that me and him have in common. For me, I'm pretty sure it's an artifact of my autism, but I know for some people it's like for for anxiety patients, I know that it can be like a self-soothing behavior for them. I know that it can come with ADHD as just sort of like a behavioral stem. It's cool that people notice that. It's fascinating. Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad it's not just totally weird. Gay Pride, Rainbow Gatherings, or the other one? Other one. Those are dope. Never been to one though. I know in Spain they organize them deep in the forest. Oh, dude, Julian, dude, the rainbow community is an international community, and if you can find some rainbow people doing a rainbow in your country, I forget where you said you live. I forget where you say you live. So it was a South American country, wasn't it? I'm retarded. Dude, I'm retarded and I've got the memory of a goldfish. It is what it is. But um, if you can find someone organizing a rainbow gathering in your area, you 100% got to go to one, dude. They're lit as fuck. And none of the documentaries that have tried to capture rainbow have captured it, like, at all. It's literally impossible. You would have to, it's something I've thought about doing, but it's just something that would be functionally impossible because I would have to be peppering the entire documentary with, do you mind if I film? Do you mind if I film? Is it okay if I film? Hey guys, I'm filming. Is that okay? Hey, Rainbow Fam filming. Is that okay? And I would have to be fighting people constantly just for the fucking privilege to film in the woods. So, but if I could ever do it with like a secret cam, like some sort of like hidden cam, and then like just blur out people's faces that I don't get permission from, then maybe that would be the way, because I would love to do like a day in the life of a rainbow video where I literally just get like 12, 14, 16 hours worth of footage, cut out all the boring stuff or most of it, or speed through it, right? And only cover the really good parts and condense that down. And hell, who knows? Maybe I could still do that even if I've just got the gimbal and the phone. But really, a rainbow, they want you to avoid that sort of thing. And I think the rainbow people would probably be opposed to me wanting to give people a view into the entire kind of feeling of it being a rainbow for a day over the internet. That might be something that would be objected to, but I really wish I could do it because it would be so cool. It would be so cool to like set an alarm, which even doing that at rainbow would be very weird, but I could do it. Set an alarm or something for like 5:30 in the morning so that I'm up and ready and filming at like 6:30, and then film until like 7:30 at night, 8:30 at night, something like that. Film all three meals in the main circle and everything. God, that could be so fucking cool. I don't know if the drive for power in me is natural or not, but it feels good. Yeah, I don't know if that's exactly what I mean when I say that though. Like when I say the drive to have one over on other people, that's why I said I don't know if that's true for all contexts and situations, right? Because you don't strike me, and now maybe I'm wrong, but you don't strike me as the type of person who wishes for like despotic rule over the entirety of the population, um, and personal control of all their wealth. Like you might desire to have that over another. You might desire to be able to exercise that ability. You might, uh, I could see you relishing the exercise of that power, but you don't come off as a person who like envisions themselves as like a displaced king of the world, you know? My PFP is actually an art piece I created as a statement on power. And thanks for the wrench. Of course. Of course, of course, of course. Got to make sure you don't get accidentally banned, and got to make sure I can still see your comments, because sometimes it's just a sea of fucking morons in here, honestly. And I will forget to read the chat. This ain't gonna be a long stream either. I'm basically about to start smoking a bowl as soon as that's done. I'm gonna be done because I gotta go to fucking bed because I gotta wake up tomorrow because I gotta feed chickens. But I might do a morning stream tomorrow and actually show you guys the feeding and watering process again, because it's been a long time since I've been able to do that. So that'd be fun. Colombia, yeah. Dude, I just need to remember, Julian equals the place where they grow all the coke. And I know that's racist as fuck for me to say. I know that's wrong on some level. But number one, I'm from the fucking South, bitch. It's just how I was raised. And number two, please forgive me. I don't mean it like that. I don't know how much you can permit yourself to travel as you do, but the idea of streaming adventures like you have is an awesome idea. Dude, that's the thing, is like I've still got the drive in me to travel, dude. I just don't have the drive to be starving. Like that's the fucking thing. Like when you're in a shitty situation, this is just the sad reality of being being a dirty kid, living the way I was living. When you're in a horrible situation, you you eventually get to the point where you want to romanticize it. You want to turn it into something other than what it is. You're not just you're not just a hobo starving in a van. You're a starving artist striving for her craft in a world set against her, right? And that reframing at the end of the day might make you feel better, but it doesn't put food in your belly. It doesn't put gas in your fuel tank, and it certainly doesn't put food in your cat's belly. You know, it doesn't do any of the things that you actually need to be maintained when you're doing that. So I've got this harebrained idea in my life that I want to do everything I can in my life to set myself up to where I can have a life where I've got this vision in my head where I've got a farm, maybe not this one, but I've got a farm and some staff, or at the very least, some people that I trust a whole hell of a lot who are willing to move in at a couple of weeks' notice and live for 2 or 3 months on the property and take care of it while I take a little Class C RV out onto the road. I have this vision in my head where I'm doing this, or I'm self-employed in some other way, or living off of investments or something. I'm employed in some fashion and making money in some fashion that allows me to have the sort of freedom to be able to do that and not live like a pauper while I do it, and pay for whoever's living in my house to be able to keep the lights on. You know what I mean? Like pay for all the basic amenities of keeping that house alive outside of the just humans being there part. I have this vision in my head of doing that because I loved traveling so dearly. It's I can't even tell you guys, dude. I loved it so fucking much, dude. I would spend, dude. I really regret. I'm really mad at the fact that YouTube didn't let me stream back when I was living on the road because, dude, I could have had so much fun on stream. We could have had so much fun on stream together, you and I. You being the chat, you know what I mean? Um, I just don't want to do it starving. You know what I mean? I would, and I also don't want to do it. I think full time, right? Like I think there is a drive in me to have a home base. I think in a perfect world, I'd be one of those people that I think in any sort of fair and perfect world, I'd be one of those people who uh, lives in like a weird ranch in Colorado for like 8 months out of the year, spends the other 4 months traveling. It's like once the snow's hit in Colorado, I'm gone and I ain't back till like late spring, you know? I've still got the drive. I just don't have the drive to starve, like I said. Because, yeah, I mean, there's this huge desire for me to romanticize it, but the truth of it is that for a lot of that time, I was living pretty fucking rough. And I had to do shit living on the road the way I was living that I never would have had to do living any other way. That sounds cool. Looking forward to seeing the feeding process. Yeah, I mean it's a cool process to watch. It's very pastoral. Yeah, that shit hurts. It sure does. We all must create narratives. Dude, for real, right? To me, a real mark of quality in a person is being able to admit when something is being narratively driven. Um, and in my opinion, the truth of it is usually most things that you've got an idea about are narratively driven, right? Our brain, that's just how our brains work. I think it's not even like a problem of personality or something you could train human beings out of. I think it's just an aspect of our psychology. It's how we process sentience is by having an internal monologue, and part of that internal monologue is creating a narrative, right? The more complex your language skills, the more complex your the deeper your reading level, etc., uh, the more complex that narrative can be, and the more you can justify that narrative, the more you can explore that narrative within yourself, etc. But there's always a narrative on the inside, right? And being able to recognize when something's being entirely driven by narrative and not being considered to the best of your ability critically at all is a super important part of being a reasonable person, right? Because if you just let narratives dominate everything, if you just let your first impressions drive how you see everything, I mean, that's how you end up with like Trump supporters or like totally untreated narcissists who are just never proven wrong on anything. You know what I mean? They're not capable of that self reflection because they haven't been taught. And um, so yeah, unchecked narratives I think are a problem, but I don't think narratives in general are even a problem. I think it's just how our psychology works. Still, I feel it would have been great to have been able to document the 4 years I was down and out in Spain. Dude, yeah, that would have been dope. You should. I love the novel Down and Out in London and France by George Orwell. Dude, I need to get that. I need to check that book out because I've heard that that's actually a really interesting work by Orwell. I think I got the name of the book wrong, but you get the point. No, I think you actually got the name right. I think it is called Down and Out in London and France. But yeah, I mean, if you want to see the end result of people being completely narratively driven, look at this political process that we're faced with. Just look at the U.S. elections this year. They are entirely being driven by narrative. The facts of the matter are that Donald Trump has a big swinging dump in his pants, that he spray paints himself orange multiple times a week, that he does his own makeup, even though he's a 80 fucking some odd year old man. That it's a fact that he's an 80 some odd year old man. um, it's facts that Kamala Harris is to the right by a significant margin of the Democratic president, even right before her. I mean, she's arguably to Biden's right, and she's 100% to Obama's right, or at least Obama's prescribed right. I'm sorry, that I didn't say that right. She's 100% to the right of Obama, or at least to the right of Obama's prescribed positions. And she's to the right of Bill Clinton. I mean, like, you've got to go back pretty far in Democratic Party history to find people that she actually melds with. Basically got to go back to the era before the party switch. Wonder why that is. So the facts of this election are that neither of these candidates actually make sense as candidates for presidency. If you told anyone that these two candidates would be the ones we'd be facing in 2024, in 2019, they would have laughed at you. People would have told you Trump is never going to be in the political stage again after we vote him out in 2020. He is going to be fucking sad. He's going to be a little sad Pepe, and he's going to walk away from the political process, disenfranchised. Nothing is going to the Trump presidency. Go to sleep now. And here we are in 2024. We're facing him again. We're facing Kamala Harris, who, I don't know if you guys remember, but the campaign, oh my god, dude, this shit is fucking crazy. I never thought about it, but dude, the campaign for against Trump, I guess you could say, has been ongoing. Oh my god, dude, I'm sorry, I'm having a realization in real time. Dude, the process that coronated Kamala Harris, you know, what's the word? Nomination as a nominee. Yeah. The events that created Kamala Harris being coronated as the nominee for the Democratic Party this year, that process has been ongoing since the day the election was called on November 5th, 2016. Literally. Those events, the events that would get her in that position 4 years later, were set in motion on that fucking day, because it was literally the next day that certain people started campaigning against Trump. Some of the same people, by the way, who would end up continuing to be Democratic frontrunners up until the moment that they weren't. Bernie Sanders was campaigning against Trump immediately. Immediately, Bernie was like, basically, as soon as Hillary lost the election, Bernie was like, all right, you guys, you know what this means. We're gearing up for it again. And he lost a lot of energy, honestly, by 2020, and pretty much gave up halfway through the year because of COVID, which I think was the dumbest thing ever, dude. And I still wonder to this day if Bernie had decided to grow a fucking pair of balls in 2020, would we be facing a different world today? Who knows, dude? Who knows? Dude, if Bernie decided, you know what, the fact that COVID-19 is going on actually punctuates really well why I should be president, I think we'd be looking at a different world. 100%. Those people are too dumb to create narratives. They only obey other narratives. That is true. Those who create their own narratives find their way to freedom. Those who impose narratives find power. Those who accept narratives are dominated. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much, yeah. I mean, that's pretty much the way it is, right? I don't know. I think some would want to add like value, like positive and negative valuations to that, those sort of just very factual statements. But to me, they just kind of come off as like the way things are. It's an interesting framing to look at power through, right? To look at domination and submission and the concept of power in general through. The idea of human psychological narratives. Because you're right, people who accept them. I mean, you've got to accept someone else's version of events in order to be dominated, whether that's in the bedroom or whether you're going to be oppressed. You've got to accept it, if not in, you've got to accept someone else's narrative, if not in belief, then in action, right? So it's like me. I don't accept the narratives of capitalism willingly necessarily. So I don't do it. I don't do it in belief, but I do it in action by continuing to go to work and continuing to, um, I don't know, continuing to participate in the market economy, etc. I continue to reinforce the narratives that were basically created for me, right? But that's one of the reasons why I feel so, I don't know, feel so strongly about my leftist politics, because I feel like that is a way for me to oppose that narrative, to take back a little bit of that freedom for myself, is to say, um, to undermine the narratives that I'm forced to uphold in action, right? It's in my position, it's my most effective tool at opposing those forces and opposing those narratives being imposed on me. I can't I can't actually cut them off, or I will be cut off from food, right? That's like that's the barrel, right? That capitalism has people over. Um, and I don't know, when I think of, I guess when I think of power in a vague sense, I tend to think of it in the broadest and most tangible terms possible, which I think is like state power, government power. But I understand that there are many different ways of expressing that. Let's see here. But when you say you don't know shit about South America, etc., obviously we have overall ignorant view of the states. Still, let's not state the obvious. The world is obsessed by America politics, yes, because it considers all of us. But it's mostly pop culture, and that's also cool. Yeah, I mean, like, the rest of the world is kind of. So Paul was talking about this the other day, and I was kind of on a weird sort of jingoistic rant earlier, talking about how like America is kind of the best country for certain reasons, and I laid them out earlier. But one thing Paul said that I really disagree with was something about how, why should he have to, and I think he was just kind of joking around. In fact, he said it on a ideology earlier. I think it was the one he did this afternoon. He was, I think, like I said, I'm pretty sure he was just joking around, but he said something about how, why should he have to listen to anything any other country has to say as an American? And like I said, I think he was just joking, but if he was serious, I kind of bristle at that, and the reason for that is because we are so imperialistic, right? We leave our footprint all over this fucking world, and it's a pretty toxic footprint. right? Um, and so, in my opinion, maybe the countries that also engage in that imperialism alongside us don't have any room to talk, and maybe they should just butt out of American politics. But I am very receptive of what a Middle Eastern person has to say about American politics. I am incredibly receptive to that because that is a person who is directly affected by the policies that this country lays out, right? I'm very receptive to the American politics opinions of people from most countries in South America because that's another fucking continent we've got our greedy paws all over, right? So I'm one of those people that, as an American, I value the opinions of foreigners in our politics because I recognize that our politics affect foreigners on a scale that most other countries' politics simply do not. American politics affects your country no matter what you want to say or no matter what argument you have for it. It just does. I don't feel the need to impose values on them, but others are free to, obviously. Oh, of course. Right. I don't feel the need to impose values on them either, though, for my part. I'm sorry my writing's a bit off. It's not that easy, especially after a couple of joints and stuff. Oh, dude. Julian, you're always so worried about that, but you literally don't need to be, dude. You are so legible 90% of the time. Dude, you can be high as balls and you write just fine, but for some reason you get a couple of beers in you, though, Julian, and you are a fucking slosh bucket at that point. You get a very different Julian if you get drunk, Julian. You're so friendly, you're so sweet, but you're so fucking prone to gibberish when you're drunk, but when you're high, you're chill. You're totally fine. And honestly, there are a bunch of Americans who write and speak way less coherently than you do. So don't even trip about it. Yeah, no, it's literally not. It's not. I totally understand what you're saying for the most part. It would be so cool to actually talk someday. Yeah, I mean, like, I have my Discord on my channel, so if you've got Discord, you can hit me up on there, and I'm also in TJ's Discord. You can always hit me up through there. I will tell you, I'm horrible about DMs. Goat Cager can tell you about that. I'm just, I don't know. I relate a lot to what Paul Zigo has said about the fact that he grew up in an era before you were immediately reachable by everybody. And I just never got used to that because I didn't get a smartphone until I was like 21, you know? And, well, I wasn't 21. I guess I was like 19. But still, I didn't grow up with it, even though it was around me. It's just my mom was like, no, you will use traditional technology until you are into adulthood and properly socializing. And that's when I was allowed to get myself a smartphone, you know? But it's just not something I ever got used to. I still treat DMs like a text. So you can send me a DM and we can work it out. I can actually send you a link to do a co-stream sometime if you want to. Like, you don't even have to have your camera on either. You can literally just, like, there's like an option somewhere on the screen where you just turn your camera off. Because I know a lot of people are self-conscious about that kind of thing. And we can talk. And I think that would be super fun because I'm usually not stymied by accent either. I don't know if that's something you'd worry about because I know people have different levels of strength in terms of their accent. Different people have worked to different and varying degrees of level of effort in terms of level of effort when it comes to sounding a certain way when they're speaking English. I'm not really usually stymied by that kind of thing. As long as you know the words you're trying to say, and you clearly do, and the correct syntax, I will understand what you're saying, no matter how thick your accent is. So that wouldn't get in our way. It would be fun. It'd be definitely that could be fun. You make an interesting point on the nature of capitalistic power. I view it a little bit differently. I laid it out earlier via our correspondence. Oh shit, YouTube finally recommended me you. Oh shit, Ignar's here. Dope. That's cool. I love that. Of course, you are gringos for us. Is that a slur? Well, if it is, I don't take it as one. I ain't tripping about it, that's for sure. I got a crossfade going and waiting for my buddy for pool, dude. Ignor's a champ. Thanks. I go to the karaoke bar a lot and meet a lot of folks from different walks of life. Conservative, anarchists, libs, Zionists even. It's fun chatting politics with them because they're actually pretty chill. Cool. Politics over beer breaks the ice a lot. It sure does. I could have a camera 100%. That would be point, I think. Yeah, no, I mean, you could do it or not do it either way. That's my point. It doesn't matter to me which one you do. I'm just saying there's it's YouTube has made it pretty easy for us to do it as long as we set it up beforehand. But in response to what Ignor said, that's what I found about politics as well, is that when it comes right down to it, very few people care about this shit enough to get into a fight about it. And especially if you're already drunk, it's just a matter of sensing out the right crowd. You know what I mean? Some people just don't want politics to be brought up. Some people are just so disgusted by the whole fucking system that they're just ready to fight you on the sheer mention of politics, right? And I'm sure you've encountered that, Ignore, as a bar hopping type of dude, because I know you're kind of a party animal a little bit, and so it would not, you've got to know that person's out there, right? But you just don't talk politics with that person, and a lot of times that person is not really trying to be social anyway. You know what I mean? But if it comes up with somebody, you kind of talk about it a little bit. 99% of the time, it never becomes violent or angry, and people are just kind of chill. And honestly, a lot of times, a thing I experience a lot is a fascination because people are finally met with the weird caricature that Fox News has laid out for them, and it doesn't match what they've been shown, right? They meet, in my case, they meet a trans woman who's an avowed anarchist, and I'm not wearing all black and tattered clothes and, fucking like three masks and like a weird beanie and shit. You know what I mean? Like I don't look like the stereotype in their head. I kind of just look like a chick, and I kind of just talk like a chick from the Midwest. Like I'm not. I'm literally. I'm just gonna put it this way. There are millions of people like me all over the South and the Midwest that just don't know that there's a word for how they feel. I'm just an anarchist that knows. I'm just a Southern/Midwestern anarchist that knows. That is the difference that sets me apart from, in my opinion, a shit ton of people down here that vote for leftist causes when they can and advocate for their application in their life and in the structures that they're a part of whenever they're able to, who strive to treat everybody fairly and to make sure that they are as egalitarian as possible, who really try to live as personal anarchists. You know what I mean? Um, those sorts of people are widespread across the South and the Midwest. Politically disengaged people who have decided that the best thing that they can do for the problems that they see in the world is to be the change that they want to see in the world and to start changing their communities from within and to work within the place that they actually live that actually affects them directly. Um, that is a super common attitude across the South and Midwest. Those people just have not been educated in sufficient numbers to know the word anarchist. But a lot of them would realize that that's what they are if they ever actually, like, if they read a few fucking pages of theory. And dude, that's the thing. I've never fucking sat through the entirety of any uh compendium of leftist theory. I've read fucking, a couple of pages here and there of a whole bunch of different leftist works. And this is stuff I've just picked up from that, as well as hearing people talk about it and talking about it with people in my personal life. They're not hard concepts to get. You've just got to socialize with enough educated people to have them explain to you, or you've got to read about them yourself. And you don't even have to read that much to start getting it, right? It's just that that sort of information is blocked off from people. A lot of people don't know how easy it is to learn, and school really does a bad job of teaching people to love learning. And so a lot of people go through their life, thinking there's something other than what they are, maybe. Oh boy. Plus, people are more friendly when the other person can punch them. Oh my god, dude. You are not fucking kidding. Dude, that is such a force multiplier. The that removal of anonymity, once you get people out of that fucking place where they feel like, ooh, I can fucking like punch people, I can hit people, I can be a fucking dick. Once you get people into an environment where they've got to be kind of like sociable with other people, or there's a little bit of a chance that they just get fucking smacked up on out of there, dude, suddenly none of this antisocial shit that you see online ever comes out. That is so true. Julian's so nice. They're sweet. They're a sweet person. For being a pansexual, furry, woke, lefty looking crust punk. Jesus Christ. Ignar, you are so many things, aren't you? I love you. I love you, man. A lot of people tend to ask about what I'm about, and I always enjoy it because most of them just realize I'm chill. Well, I have the same thing going on, right? I'm a trans femme, woke, anarchist, anti-fascist, anti-racist, etc., motherfucker, right? And I don't even dress that weirdly anymore. Like, I used to have a pretty eccentric out there style of dress. I used to wear my patch vest around a lot. I haven't worn it regularly in over 2 years at this point. You know what I mean? Like, it was a super common feature of my fashion for like 3 years, and then it just kind of went away. And now I have a way more normal style of dress. I still tend to look like a goth chick, but I'm not quite as I'm not quite as noticeable as I used to be, maybe. And people a lot of times have the same sort of interaction with me, especially if they're in a sort of situation where they feel like they can talk to me. You know what I mean? Like if I'm over at like a plug's house or something, and somebody's hanging out with them, that person almost always ends up asking me some sort of weird question. And honestly, I usually answer it because, dude, I love the reaction that people get when they hear someone answer in a way other than what they thought they were probably going to get. Because a lot of these people, I think they'll ask the question expecting to just kind of get it joked off, or maybe I'll just be embarrassed or something, but then I'll actually answer it for real. You know what I mean? Like I'll tell somebody I'm bi because they ask if I'm gay, and then they're like, so you saying you like suck dudes' dicks or something? Instead of being like, man, that's a real weird question to ask somebody. I'll just be like, I mean, yeah, like I'll give oral on a woman too, but yeah, I'll do oral on men or intersex people. It doesn't really matter much to me, and because I love seeing the looks on people's faces because they're like, they can't believe somebody actually just gave a legit answer and they're 100% serious. Dude, I love that shit. I live for that shit. Um, and I think people are, I think they tend to lean towards fascination before fear, all other things being equal. Like I said, Julian's so nice. Let's see here. I got family in Texas, and a lot of my cousins don't know much about politics besides being good Christian family folk. So they will legit sit down and listen to me talk Union history all day. Dude, well, that's the thing is like, those sorts of like everyday lefties are all over this fucking country. These sorts of like, these sorts of people who are, they're our allies. We just don't seem to want to recognize that on the left, and the people on the right are all the more willing to try and pretend that they are their allies, even though they are no one's allies, right? Obviously, the Democratic Party isn't their allies either, but the people are their allies, right? Their fellow fucking worker is the fucking that's, they've got an ally in that community, and so many of these people just don't realize that, right? Or they do realize it, but still vote in a way that people would probably find objectionable. But honestly, how they vote is way less important to how do they treat other people, right? How do they feel about unions, right? I mean, that's a fucking great thing, right? Like, How do they feel about important social issues and shit? Honestly, the way you feel about particular issues is 110% more important to me, at least, than how you plan on voting. Because I don't think how you vote actually affects much. I don't even know that we really know that our vote goes where we say it goes. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to be a total conspiracy theorist, but how the fuck do you know where the fuck your vote actually goes? You know what I mean? That is not a process to which we are given complete transparency. So it's always going to be up in the air. Exactly. Most never have time to sit down and check that stuff out, let alone where to find it. Yeah, I mean, that's my thing. It's like, how do you learn about anarchism and its rise over the last 150 years? Um, how do you learn about that if no one ever tells you to go read Tolstoy? You know what I mean? How do you learn about that if no one ever tells you to go read Trotsky? How do you learn about that if how do you learn about the complex history of capitalism if no one ever tells you to go read Adam Smith? You know, these sorts of things are deeply important, and 90% of people in America just have no idea that that information is even out there. They don't remember it from their history lessons because they were basically encouraged by this culture to sit through them silently and dispassionately. And their history teachers were more than happy to allow them to do the same. And so you've got an entire generation, an entire crop of people that have no interest in history, no frame of reference for it. But it's because they don't really know how to be engaged by that knowledge, in my opinion. 90% of the morons that are rude online are timid in real life. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, dude. I would say probably like 95%, dude. It is so fucking common because because when you're in real life, right, there are stakes. Like you said earlier, somebody can punch you up in the fucking face if you're saying some sideways shit in real life. Most people won't, but you will occasionally get a motherfucker who's like, you know what? I'm sick and tired of your mouth, motherfucker. Well, you know what I that just happens sometimes in real life. That can't happen online. And so people work out their fucking demons. People that can never get a fucking people that feel like they can never get one over on people in real life. And I'm gonna say that I agree with you on this one, and it is 100% morons, right? Morons that feel like they can't get anything over on anybody in real life because they're just not that smart go online to try and get one over on people on the internet by just being base level mean or bigoted or fascist or whatever, right? Um, because they're never clever enough to get any sort of meaningful gratification in their life, positive or negative. And that's a problem of stupidity, you know? That's a problem of a motherfucker being improperly socialized and improperly informed. I can't imagine how desolate their lives must be to flex in a chat room or a comment section. You got me. Um, you got me, dude. There are just some people that live online. I mean, that's a problem too. There are just some people that are their lives are kind of empty in general, and so they're constantly online, and that tends to embitter a motherfucker. So I know that's part of it. I wear mine only at certain times because I always lost pens at shows, so I just wear it casually these days. But I always found pens at shows, so it was like a loss for a free pen or two. Yeah, I mean that's always the beauty of pens, right? You lose a few, but if you're at a place where pens are common, you're always going to get a few too. So it's like pens are just like universal property, basically. Absolutely, because a lot of them don't even know where to find that type of history, let alone get taught about it. Exactly. There are a shit ton of people in this country who wouldn't know how to spell Tolstoy if you recommended it to them. You know what I mean? There are a whole shit ton of people in this country who wouldn't know how to spell Marx if you recommended it to them. There's a whole bunch of people in this country that wouldn't know how to spell uh, Zen. You know what I mean? Even though that's literally just Zinn. It's just the sad fucking state of this country. People are so fucking badly informed by their educations in the public school system that they have no passion for learning when they come out, and they don't functionally remember shit. And so people end up totally uninformed. I do got some wacky fun fact about my aunts. They met Greg Abbott back in 2018 and were at the governor's mansion. Very strange that I could have met him. Dude, that would have been weird, bro. Although I will tell you, I think that would have been boring as fuck, because Greg Abbott seems like he's a boring milquetoast motherfucker at the best of times. And somehow I don't think meeting with the public at the governor's mansion would have been one of his most stellar appearances, but maybe I'm wrong. Dude, there are some people that just don't like the fucking hot lights and the fucking cameras and the fucking mics. There are some people that, when they can glad hand like an old style politician again, then they're okay. Maybe Greg Abbott's one of those, but that is weird, yeah. On my stream before popping on here, my buddy Brian got kicked out for a month because a dude was talking smack about him, and he stood up to him. Ended up being a fight. What? Dude, this happened on stream, Ignar? What the fuck, bro? That's cool. Good content. That's why I talked about, you guys are going fast now. That's why I talked about getting punched in the fucking face on Paul's stream a bit ago. He didn't like it. Yeah, well, I mean, it was a bit off topic, I think, is why. It's because it was like a little bit off topic. I think it was maybe on topic when you first said it, but he either didn't notice or didn't want to say it for some reason. And there's kind of like an unspoken rule in Paul's chat. It's like you can repeat something like 3 times if there's not really a topic going, but there's a lot of people in chat, and like twice if there is a topic going and you're trying to add something to that topic. And usually outside of that, you're kind of walking on thin ice. So not my policy, although I do think it does kind of protect the chat from nonsense sometimes, so you win some, so you lose some, but hey, you came back, it's all good. A lot of online dipshits wouldn't do ever stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. It would be wild to listen in on the backroom deals going on. Oh, it 100% would. It would. Not that it's of interest to anyone else here, but I've managed to use the sleep state loophole to add 40 hours on my computer project. Holy shit, bro. The updates I have missed are many. The patch notes are going to be legendary on this one. I can already tell. I got punched, but I think most kids under 30 have no idea how great that feels in a good way. What the fuck? Julian, no, that does not feel great to most people. You're just a masochist, okay, buddy? Which is fine, but recognize it. No, he was talking about a time from the bar. I worded it badly. Oh, okay. Well, I understand now. Yeah, dude. I thought you had some crazy fucking IRL streamer type shit go down on your stream. I was giving you a lot of credit there, But you have had some crazy shit go down on your streams for sure, because you were covering. In fact, the reason I heard about you in the first place, the reason I originally subscribed to your channel, is because you covered. You were like an on the ground grassroots YouTube journalist in the midst of the Portland side of the George Floyd protests, like when Chaz and shit was going on. Dude, you were one of the fucking people that were in Portland streaming what was going on in those protests. The only thing I would change is I would go back in time and give you a gimbal. Literally, dude, I can't tell you how much that improves the quality of a phone stream or something. You would be fucking amazed. It also gives you an air of respectability. I mean, people are also going to look at you like a douchebag if you're not okay, if you're near something that people expect to be filmed, people are going to look at you with an air of respectability. If you're doing something that people don't expect to be filmed, people are going to look at you like a little bit of a douchebag, but they're also going to treat you a little bit better than they normally would, because they don't want to seem bad to the camera. Then other people will treat you worse just because you got a camera. It's a whole weird thing, and it seems to be elevated by the gimbal. But if you're at a protest or something like that, or you're covering some real action, dude, I can't tell you how useful it is. Because like the one I got, my partner bought it for me. Apparently, it only cost like $70 on Amazon, and it's got. I'll show you here. It's got a tripod with it, so the bottom can flip out, so I can set this down somewhere. But I can also use it just as part of the handle when it's folded up. Folds up nicely and roundly. And then this part up here swivels. So normally when you set it up, right, it defaults to this position. And so you hold it like that, and you can rotate it from you can rotate it between landscape and portrait mode, and it'll hold it steady. And you can use this little joystick on here to actually control the shot dynamically. And another cool feature I like about this one is that if you twitch your wrist in a certain way, or you twist it, it will allow you, it will understand that you're trying to move the camera, right? But it will still steady that shot, and you can actually use the joystick to kind of control the fineness of that motion. It's it really does elevate the content a little bit, because it pretty much eliminates shaky cam. I got arrested while streaming back then. I did them on Twitch too. Yeah, dude, that was super cool, dude. That was dope. I have had a fight on stream recently, but it was muted and off camera. Dude, that's fucked up, bro. That's crazy. Dude. Ignar's always had a fascinating life, though. Yeah, I'm curious to see the data, but the thing that sucks about the sleep state loophole is that I have to leave it alone when I want to be inputting information. Ah, yeah, see? Well, it's almost like really the loophole, if you think about it, it's just saving wear and tear on the mainframe, you know? It's ensuring the good health of the mainframe. You should look at it as you should look at it less as a loss of opportunity and more of a gain of future opportunities. I got arrested while streaming back when I did them on Twitch too. Yeah, that's fucking crazy. I have absolutely no internet person at all, not even a video gamer, never. Right on. I know what you're talking about. I've always wanted one. I don't remember what I was talking about. Let's make it fast. The new fucking atheisms brought me to the pole, and that's it. Well, now you've got me too. You've got two YouTube people now. I had something similar, but it slowly broke down due to wear from the protests. LOL. Still have it somewhere, funny enough. No, damn. That's a shame. Dude, I'm telling you, if you've got an extra $70, I can send you the link to this one. It's made in China, but it's fucking, the build quality is 100% dope. It's made of all steel from what I can tell. Well, maybe not completely, but most of it is. So like this part all feels like it's probably metal. If it's not metal, it's like super hardened plastic. This part down here that actually holds the phone, I can tell is metal because it's so much colder. The arm that holds the phone is metal. This arm that holds the phone is metal. All these joint interfaces are really strong metal as well. And the greatest thing about this one is that it folds. So you just go like, boop. And now you can fit it into a suitcase or whatever, carry-on luggage. About as big as your head. I love this thing. And if you're using the app, if you're actually just recording content with it, it's got a zoom wheel and shit too. So you can really do some like professional level shit with this if you've got a a pretty good phone. And it's like $70 on Amazon. Dude, you can go back and look at some of my first streams in this vertical stream format where I'm doing the feeding versus some of the ones nowadays where I've got the gimbal. It's a totally different experience. I know I'm getting high with a couple of you. That's cool. Yeah, see? There you go. You just got to look at the right way. I'd love to stick about, but my friend just showed up and brought insane hype out of nowhere. I'll join the Discord, send you my Discord. Oh, dude, definitely do that, Ignore, because I would love to have you on stream, because I know that you do these streams too, and I know that you're good at hanging out and reading the chat and that kind of thing. So I think you would be a good person to do this with. So definitely hit me up on Discord. It's on my channel. My tea is all done, but my partner had a remnants of a lemonade sitting there, so I drank that. Dude, I'm so proud of myself, y'all. I have not had a single bite of pork since I got my "you might be getting gout" diagnosis. I haven't had a bite of it. I have avoided anything that explicitly had pork in it. Now, I'm going to tell you, I will probably still eat pepperoni because I don't think I could ever break my addiction to pepperoni pizza. But if that ends up being something I can't do ever, if I can't even have like a bite of it, then so be it. I'll find a place that uses a beef and chicken mix, or I'll find a place that doesn't, or I'll just not get pepperoni. You know what I mean? Or I can get pizzas with half regular, half no pep, you know? So that way everybody else gets some that's regular, but I get like a half or a quarter of the pizza that's free of pepperoni, so that way I don't have to eat any pork. But honestly, dude, I need to look into it, because I it's really, you need to do these things to offset it or something like that. I just need to look into it more. I need to start learning about it. But yeah, definitely do that. Oh man, I wonder how I developed gout. I'm literally sitting here fucking worrying about how I can't have pork despite the fact that I haven't eaten it in days. Dude, so I watched Coraline again tonight, with Silas, and I have to say, I don't care what anybody says, stop motion animation is beautiful. God, it is so cool to watch, and the amount of skill that goes into it is just so cool, dude. And another thing I love about stop motion movies, especially like Henry Selick stop motion, is that there is detail to everything. And Tim Burton style stop motion is also this way, but honestly, less so. In a Henry Selick movie, everything is so. Sometimes the level of detail is so subtle, right? Like I noticed, I've watched that movie probably 10 times, and tonight on my 11th watch, I noticed another new thing. I noticed that in one of the ending scenes, Coraline is outside and she looks up, and she's like looking up at the top of the house or something, and you see the moon. And this is right after the main kind of climax of the story has happened. She's defeated the evil hand and shit. And as her and, well, YB fucking like, he like rides his bike away or something, but then Coraline goes up into the house, and you kind of see the camera like pan up as she's doing it, and the moon is up there, and these clouds kind of part away from the moon, and if you look at it, it looks like hands that are suddenly uncovering the moon. And the moon has already been used as a stylistic element in the movie by this point, because it's used as kind of like the timer that Coraline has to work against that is timing the destruction of the world, basically. That's such a weird movie. It's such a good movie. There's also a lot of surrealism in that movie, which I've always been a big fan of. I move around that too. It's just one leg though. Paul had a Discord. How was this? Paul had a Discord for a while, and it was great. But eventually, it became some Game of Thrones bullshit. And the person who was running that community, I haven't seen them in the community at large at all in like months. So I get the feeling they might have just like jumped ship entirely. I don't know, but it was cool. It was cool while it lasted. That's about all I can say about it, honestly. Because the rest of it, you just had to be there. It was a place that was mainly focused on VC discussion. And honestly, while Salt Rackus was popping, it was pretty hard to go on there when there was like people there and not have there be like a million people there. And honestly, a big part of the reason I don't ever hang out on the TJ Discord, I don't know why I said it like that, but a lot of the reason I don't hang out on the VC channels at the TJ Discord is because it's just not the same fucking vibe. Dude, there was like an expectation of the people who went to Salt Rackus that like, I want to have a fucking conversation with somebody. I want to sit here and bloviate and have somebody else bloviate for a minute and just have a conversation, right? And the TJ Discord seems to attract a different sort of thing. That seems to be like more like people who just kind of want to hang out and voice chat together, which is fine. But I want to join voice chat to fucking like have a one-on-one with somebody while a bunch of people are listening, or to have like a 4 or 5 way conversation with a bunch of different ideas going around. That's why I'm on a Discord. And that's why I don't find myself going back to the VC channels on TJ's Discord very often. But sometimes I will. Sometimes I pop in there because it just depends on who's in there, you know? Like sometimes the vibes are just supreme. Other times the vibes are like, these are all right vibes, I guess. I'm just bored. Like in the old days, yo. Dang, it was dope. It definitely was. Anyway, I think I'm gonna go, y'all. It's been real. But I gotta sleep. Bye.